Okay, let's just quickly. Right, go ahead and load your logo, or maybe if you like some practice first, you can do what I'm doing. You can create like a simple plane here and several objects that could act as logo objects sort of thing. So what I'm doing is just I'm having this here, just putting some cylinders, maybe rotate it this way. Maybe even create a text here very quickly. Oh. Right, where is it? Extrude. Okay, so if you just want to load your logo or load like something as simple as this, have all these sort of like, go closer in, this one a bit out. This would be blend would be blue, done. This would be blend, assign new material, blend, this would be red. And this shall be I'll put a gradient if I could, but that'll be for later. In any case, so if you like to load your logo or set this up, we're going to do a little test animation. Have you guys thought of like how you like your logo to be animated? Any sort of ideas, plans? If not yet, then maybe sort of, right? Okay, that's good. Basically, what I'm going to demo here is give you an idea of like different ways you can go ahead and animate. So I like to first, before I start animating, I like to usually save a version, right? So like logo test, maybe version, maybe V00, because I like to, if anything goes wrong, you at least have the base, you have that base to fall back on. So I like to always put 00, so 01, 2, etc. If you're really that paranoid, you can put 3 digits if you're ever going that far. So, save it in, and yeah, there you go, test. Yep. Okay, cool. So with this, I would like to now with this save as 00. Let's say I want in the camera view. Let's create a camera. So I don't think you guys know this, but you can create cameras to customize sort of like your viewpoints, right? So in this case, actually, you guys be learning a little bit of extra stuff. So in any case, here you can create camera, and just a normal camera will be fine. So you like to maybe expand it, you get see the camera as it is, and you can always, if you go to channel box, you can rename the camera. If you sort of like take that and you click in, you just left click in that area, you can name this anim cam. So you know anima cam, so you know that's the one you want animated, right? And what does the view look like from this camera? Well, to see the view, we can go to panel and perspective, then anima cam, and this is what we see. We see nothing, which is a given since the camera is facing this way. And if you had sort of lines of the line of view effectively from the camera, you get that misses everything. So let's rotate this so it's facing down that way, about -90 in this case. And in the panels, we now see a very close up of craft. Now be very careful when moving in the camera view that you want animated, because if I were to select the camera I'm in, like here, I can select the camera I'm currently in. I can zoom out. Do notice what happens when I zoom out. Only one of this properties change. The others are not changing. You notice they're all like that, all like that. But if I start moving like this, notice I introduce changes here and in the translate X and Z. Not what I want. And what happened here? Any case, that's not what I want basically. So what I want is just that. So as I said, be very careful if you're in the camera you want the animation to be viewed in. Be very careful how you zoom in, zoom out, stuff like that. And be careful of doing this, because if you introduce that, you introduce a whole bunch of rotation that is really just a headache to sort out effectively. Now, in this view, I have this crafting. Perhaps I want this whole thing to sort of like maybe zoom out to cover the entire frame, or maybe I just want this particular frame. In this case, it's your choice sort of thing. So once you're done, usually adjusting the view from either here or here for the animation camera, what I like to do is go and select the animation camera and select all this by left clicking drag, right click and lock selected. This is just an additional step that prevents you from changing the camera view. It's just a little extra step that I find useful when it comes to animating using this camera. Notice that we can select the camera, but we can't move, rotate, or scale it at this point. If you do want to change the camera, you want to edit the camera position or whatever, you can always unlock selected. There's that option. But in any case, in my case, I'm happy with this. So we're still setting up the scene, 48 seconds, and let's see, that's there. Let's put in a light. Let's create an aerial light, I suppose. Have it rotate down this way and scale. And let's also create another light. Let's create another directional light. Scale that up and move it this way. Yeah, okay. In this case, I'm just going to leave it at two lights, because the backlight will just hit this area, and I don't believe it will make that much of a difference. We can have a quick look. If it does look a little too bright, the back bit, there's nothing there, so I'm not going to bother with a backlight since this plane blocks the light from there anyway. So I'm just not going to bother with a backlight in this case. Now, if the light's too bright, remember you can go down here, go to Attribute Editor, and you can reduce the intensity if you remember that. So 0.4. And perhaps no decay actually. Decay would be a little more involved. Let's see what happens we add this in. Still too bright. Let's see. 0.25. It's getting there. Perhaps a decay would be. Put this 0.75. Put this 1. This is what happens when you add a decay to it. It starts. It acts like it kind of acts like a real light in a sense that once you shine a light, it sort of decays as it goes further from the source. And so in this case, let me try something. Let me just try this. Will it change anything? You can see it has a nice glow. You might want to push this maybe to 10, see what happens. Let's see. It has a nice glow actually. I might leave it like that, come to think of it. And this one maybe just put it down to 0.75 and see what it looks like from the Anima cam. Looking, it's very cheap looking. Well, it doesn't matter. Point is we can spend all day sort of editing the lighting. That's not going to help us yet. This is just the setup basically. Okay, so once you have all this set up, we're like, right now, how do we want to animate this? How do we want to animate this logo? This effectively would be our final position. All right, so when you plan your animation, it's always good to sort of go backwards. How do you want elements here to appear in front of the audience? So in my case, I think perhaps I want this this plane to appear first. So how I would set it, I would say, what I would do is like, this is it's a bit tough because you have here the final position, i.e. it's basically the last keyframe of the animation. So technically you have here all the last keyframes of the different objects. Now that makes it that you have to kind of plan how the animation would you do need a good plan of how the animation would occur. In your case, your logos, they could be in their final positions. So in a sense, they are in their final keyframes. So like in this case, I would say I would take the plane and say, okay, first if I want the plane to appear first, which means it would be like the first to appear, and hence would be earlier down in the time frame. Yes, the time scale. So say it takes about a second for this to appear. So like from nothing, you have a very short pause before the plane sort of like spirals in from nothingness into something. So let's say it appears at around frame 30. We can press S there, and the plane is set. Actually, you know what? Before we do anything else, I should just this is a habit I should also get myself doing. Delete type by history and freeze transformation. This is just to make animating easy, because if I don't do that, it is possible, like, yeah, stuff like this would have like would already have values, which makes it not difficult to animate, but just not as convenient if you have zero sort of like values. So let's, if you have your objects, you go through them, you go delete by type history, you go to modify and freeze transformation. It's all 0. Go through each one, freeze transformation, pressing G for repeat if you remember that. And again, delete by type history, G. Okay, so all this should be just nice there. All should have 0. Actually, come think of it, right? Also notice how the pivot point for all these letters are in this position. So we also want to very quickly center pivot, make sure no change occurs here. So we just quickly center pivot as in this case as a quick solution of, if I really wanted to be accurate, I'll go in, I'll zoom and perhaps I'll snap it to that vertex, you know. But we're just doing very quickly here, and since these are all in their final positions, we can very quickly say, yeah, okay, fine, we just want to animate from here, we'll just put it here, sort of thing. So yeah, I just got your friends' emails on that. Not emails, texts. A bit late, but never mind. Okay, so back to now. Once we've done all the cleaning, everything is clean. Look at that, lovely zeros. So let's start planning the animation. I want this to appear first at frame 30, spiraling in after, say, 10 frames of nothingness. Basically, just you have that little buffer, so to give audience a little time to prepare, that little buffer. You can always change the time frames, but I will show you how to edit time frames in a bit, because right now we're just basically blocking out the animation and trying to figure out what to use and all that. Hold on, and let's very quickly check the animation. Yeah, climb step. Okay, cool. So here at frame 30, I have it there. At frame 10, I want it down here. I want it spiraling. I want it spiraling this way several times, maybe 300. No, that maybe too much. 180. So here 180, here 0. So it will, as it animates, it will spin up, right? And lastly, I want it to come from nothing. So here I come up from 0, then boom, right? Obviously, you don't see the animation here. But since the animation is simple, right, we can go ahead and spline this now. So here, go to the graph editor. Here we are. Let's spline it. Let's see, is there anything we need to check for? Nope, don't think there's anything wrong. Okay, so here we go, something like that. Now, I want the animation to come up quite fast like this, right? And to slow down a lot, as it sort of reaches the apex of its thing. So do you remember how we edit that? How we slow down animation? Remember, like as the ball hits the apex of the curve, how it slows down? Remember, we sort of stretch it. We sort of stretch the graph out that way. Okay, same thing here. We zoom into the points where we want probably want the whole lot, to be honest. All these are weighted tangents, as can be seen with the with this particular shape. So we go ahead and click that, and also we go ahead and stretch it out this way. There's not much of a change. There won't be much of a change with that. Actually, let me just go through one by one. Let's have this flat. There we go. So here, we want this to be the final point, so we have to make it flat. This one we changed so that it goes like that, and that's for the rotate. So as it rotates, it will slowly ease into the final position. Now we do the same for the Y direction. We want, oh, what is that horrible thing? Look at that little spike there. I'm not sure what that is. That probably comes from the fact that because this the handles, right, stretch into this handle is huge, and it overstretches into this other handles area. That causes this little blip. I believe that you won't see anything happen because it occurs the frames hit exactly after it, so you won't see it. But to have that bit of dirty data is not nice. It's extra calculation Maya has to do, and you want it clean so Maya doesn't have to worry about all this unnecessary stuff. So we make that flat, it disappears. We just make this curve up, and we stretch this out this way. Remember, to stretch things out, you do need to have this free the tangent weights. So let's double quickly check. Yeah, okay, so That's the Y. It slows down as it goes in there. And finally, we have the scales, all the different scales. If we see them, they're like that. You can see again, if I press F, there'll be that blip there because of the extended handles. So here we just make it flat again, indicating that's where we want it to end. We stretch it out and we adjust this. So once we play, we get a nice ease into the animation this time. So something like that. Animation starts quick, but slows down as it reaches this final point. All right, so that's that. That's that bit done. All right, and now we say, okay, my plan shows that this goes first. These two will fall from above, and the craft will appear from the camera into the picture, right? So like, okay, let's do that. Let's see what happens then. All right. Notice that these are very simple animations. We haven't even gone to deforming yet. So I mean, these are very basic animations requiring knowledge of at least manipulation of the time frames here. Now, 48 frames is around 2 seconds. 2 seconds is too short for a little clip like this, I believe. So you want it to maybe stretch out a little further. Let's say 24 times 10 seconds, 240 frames. So yeah, remember how to edit that? We go to this box here, 240 frames, press enter, and just stretch it out. That's your entire thing. So that little plane animation takes up this much of the entire bar this time. So we have this whole playground to play with. So now let's see. For this one, let's have these sort of like fall and maybe bob a little, something like that. So from the top, which means that around, say, frame 30, this takes about another second to fall, I suppose. From frame 30, you have it slow down, then things fall. So have it around frame 24, 25, frame 60. Let's have it frame 60 that these two more or less are in that position. So let's just shrink this so that we can focus on the timeline. I mean, this is when animating, you like to constantly stretch and shrink this, because it's easy to manipulate single frames if you're closer, but if you want to see the entire animation as a whole, you want it stretched out, just so you know. So it's good practice to just keep this stretched out and in. You can always adjust it. I want it focused on frame 30 to frame 60. So just move it there so that's within that range. Right, so at frame 60, these two are in their final positions. So I press S, I've keyed in their final positions. That has a final position at 60 and another one at 60. So let's say as the plane is coming up, the two objects start falling. All right, so they start falling at frame 25, which means let's pull these up as far as possible, which means these will drop. So when these drop at that height, zoom like that. In this case, we probably want to actually do this. Okay, we want to get up the graph editor and check out the well, it's not Y, oh, it's Z, right? Of course, it's Z because it's in that particular direction. Let's see. You don't need this one. That can be deleted. What I deleted was what I deleted was this bit 20 at 25. It's not needed, I suppose, because let's see. Actually, that's my mistake. Actually, let's see. Undo that. Yeah, do you see what? Okay, that was a mistake I did on my part. Like, I was wondering why I had that. That's because when I moved this up here, I said I wanted to change this direction where it falls. I didn't go back to the original keyframe, which added another keyframe, which wasn't what I wanted. You know, I wanted both of them to start 25, but I made the silly mistake of not moving my keyframe. So this is one example of what you should always have in mind what you're doing. Otherwise, you make silly mistakes like that. So move down to frame 25, move the object up. Everything is okay now. So, right. Let's see what happens when we spline this and say that's the part where it ends. So we want it to hit there, something like that, right? So let's see what happens. Goes something like that. It falls like that and well eases into that position. It's kind of what we want, I suppose. Let's have a look through the anim cam very quickly. It's like very uniform. Okay, so sorry, what? Like goes, yes, yeah, it sort of floats in from nowhere. Okay, so okay, so we animated it, but it kind of doesn't look appealing, right? It looks like very fake and all that, right? So let's give it a bit more life. Let's say, okay, let's concentrate on this one first. Let's do it one by one. Concentrating on this one first, like this one, you can hide it. Two ways you can hide objects. I believe I taught you this one method. You can create a new layer and hide it that way. Alternatively, you could, this one you have to remember you have to remember the hotkeys for this one, hence why I didn't really teach you. But it is useful if you're in a rush, don't want to create new layers and stuff. You can select objects and press Ctrl H. Oh, then what do? It's gone forever. No, it's not gone forever. It's here. It's there. It's here because notice that this grayed out object here, it's there. You won't see it until you press Shift H. But in any case, in your case, in you guys' case, I think it's prudent. It's prudent to know the hotkeys, but it's easier to use the layer method, and you can always just delete it afterwards anyway. It's just easy to use this, but it's just prudent to have in mind that you can hide objects using Ctrl H and unhide them by selecting them in the outlier and pressing Shift H. Okay, now we hit that just so that it doesn't distract us. We now can consider this, right? Graph. Okay, so when we look at the animation for this, right, it sort of just floats in. That's nice, and this is sort of like, ooh. Okay, it's like that's not. I mean, it is animating. Yeah, I mean that's an animation, but it's quite a crappy animation. Let's say we want it drop faster. We want boom, right? So first off, one way to do that is that we select this. We select the translate Z. Just be focused, because I noticed that when you select the object itself, it has that little bit there from the pressing S. Remember? So that keyframe is set there. In order to not select that part, we just press the translate Z, which is what we animated. So we just press translate Z, unlock it. Where is my unlocked? Oh my god, wait, what is that? Oh, it's not appearing on my computer screen, but yeah, it's appearing on the I don't know what that is. Okay. Anyways, we click that, we free the tangent weights, and we stretch it out as much as we can. Now this is going to be a big stretch. Here we compensate for that stretch. Instead of having that S curve, we go for more C curve that way. So this would be a big drop. So let's see what this looks like. Not as fast as I wanted to. I think perhaps it's because, right, it's just too far. It's just too long, right? Perhaps it's just too long. That means like it takes more than a second for it to float in this case. So, okay, now this is big. This is how you change timing in the keyframe. So this part is quite important. To edit within the keyframe itself, right? Instead of going through, oh, I need to go here instead, press S, whatever. We can use this keyframe, the same keyframe, and move it. Say we want it 25 to 40, right? So we see the keyframe at 60. You hold down Shift. So I would do this, right? I would select a buffer before and after. So Shift, click, left click, hold. Notice that appearing there, and drag. I'm still holding Shift. I'm still holding left click. I'm dragging, and let go. What I usually like to do, I always like to create a small buffer before and after the frame. I'll show you why in a bit, but any case, here, right? Here you select the middle arrows, not the far arrows, the middle arrows, and you move. You left click, hold, move, drag. So that yellow key there, that yellow key you see. Oh, actually, I see those. What is happening? Any case, the yellow key you see is the keyframe you want moved. So we want it moved to 40. We have it moved to 40. Do keep an eye on the graph editor also. Boom, changed. Once you're done, you can click anywhere here. Just left click anywhere, it's gone. All right. So let's see what happens now. Let's try that again with less. What is happening actually? Sorry. You do have to forgive me, but what is happening to that projector? Sorry? Yeah. Well, oh, that's weird. Is that distracting, by the way? Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to see what's up in the break, but do bear with me for a while. Okay. Any case, yeah. Still a bit floaty-ish. Maybe we can see what's happening here. Yeah. Maybe adjust the thing here. All right. Let's see what happens now. Slightly better. If you have a look, yeah, it's a little bit better that way. You could always make it a little bit faster. Same thing, Shift, hold, drag, move it here, 35. Just want to see what happens. Yeah, could do. Could do. Let's see. Okay, the reason why. Okay, now to the more finer points of what I did. The reason why when you select say you select two keyframes, right? Why you select the middle button, right? Instead of you selecting the end buttons. Now, do bear in mind that hopefully undo works for me here because I don't like this bit. Okay, when you select the end buttons and move it, right? Notice what happens to the far left yellow keyframe, right? So notice that it sort of like moves small increments. It doesn't feel like it's moving in a keyframe. Okay, so what the end button does, right? It shrinks the duration of the selected region. All right, what it does is it's shrinking the duration. Say you selected 20 keyframes worth. I want to shrink down to 10 keyframes. That's the idea basically. So what happens then? Like at this point, right? That red keyframe is now in the middle of frame 24. You can't select it effectively. You can't select it. Well, you can, but it's just not going to. It's going to be very messy. Let's put it that way. It's not something you want. If you look here, right? If you look here. Let's zoom in here. Yeah, that keyframe is in the middle of frame 24 and 25. It's just messy, like why is it there? I can't do anything with it, sort of thing, And you press S again. You press S here. Look at that. Let's make that. So you get that, and then what? Do you have to? Oh wait, maybe I push this up. No, it's just very messy, and you don't want to mess about with the arrows at the end. When you create, let me undo. When you create, let me undo further, just in case. Okay, when you create this to say move, keyframes like this, you don't want to select the ends because that can mess up your work unintentionally. Now, the other thing is, why do I select a buffer? You know, like why can't I just select that? You could, but the arrows are very, very close to each other. It's just really not, you could, but it's really tight. I just prefer this so I can see where the middle arrows are. You don't have to go the entire length, you know. You could just go there, couple frames, boom. Those arrows are far enough apart that you can distinguish between which arrows you should use, rather than just having a single frame. Hence why I select hence why I have a buffer when I create these things. I have never used these end bits to sort of like edit my animation. I just don't like the idea of fooling around with that sort of thing so much. So I go usually just like whole keyframes, move them like that, and try to gauge my animation from there. Okay, now back to where we were. Let's edit this so that it looks nice, something like that. Yeah, that's very big there, very long in fact. Maybe we can actually shorten it a bit, because it's a bit too long, right? If it's, oh yeah, whole shift. If it's a bit too long, it may also not be very may not look very nice sometimes. Let's see. All right, let's see this. Yeah, that's fine. All right, it's very sharp drop, then a slow ease in. Now, we want it to sort of bounce a little bit as it falls, right? So we say, all right, so okay, we bounce up a little bit at 37, maybe 37, move up a little bit, and 39, 38, we move down, 39, move up again, 40, what was 40? 40 was this one, a 0, of course. 40 is at 0, there. So let's zoom into this bit. Remember, zoom in. To zoom into a selected area, if you remember what zoom or like the focus, if you remember F for focus, right? I want to focus on this bit, right? Pressing F will do that. I want to focus on this bit. Select this, press F. Let's select this and press F. That'd be easier, right? So we now have this focus, have this small thing where we see, yeah, looks like steps. Well, mainly because it is steps. So we just want quickly, these are all plateaus, so let's do that. And now we just have a quick select. Yeah, okay. We want to break this. The reason why we're breaking it is so that we can have individual control over the two different handles, and we want to shrink this handle a little bit that way. So it's not to be like that effectively. So let's shrink that a little bit. So it's like this. We have this break the tangent, stretch it a little bit. Same for here. What's that? Oh, right. Same for here, same for here, and same for here. All right, let's see what it looks like when played. It's a little. Okay, maybe let's try this. Let's try move it closer so it's like literally frame by frame sort of thing. Let's see. What the? Is there a reason for that? Okay, perhaps that weird pause, right? Yeah, it's because of the slowness here. So perhaps, yeah. Okay, perhaps what we can do, right? We take this, shrink it further. And let's try that. Let's see what happens actually. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Let's try this then. Let's try not have that plateau. Let's try to get rid of that, and let's see what happens when it sharply turns into this easing bounce effectively. So let's see what happens. Oh, wait, what's that? Okay. It's not bad, I suppose, but it's not really you do, I suppose. Not the best thing. This bit here? This bit here. This bit here, right? This bit. Why I suddenly decide to make it more pointy, right? Okay, the reason is because remember when it's curved, right? Think of it like a ball in an arc, right? When it reaches the height of its arc, it slows down, correct? And then it slowly falls that way. It slowly, from its point where effectively there's no vertical velocity at that point. When it reaches the peak of its arc, there's no vertical velocity. Gravity has caused its velocity to become zero. Remember, the ball is fighting, right? The ball has a velocity going this way. Gravity is acting this way. As it reaches the peak, they cancel each other out. So that ball is basically not moving up anymore. And as it slowly moves down, right? The ball starts moving faster and faster that way. So in a sense, right, think of it like that. Like as something reaches a point, if it's curving into the point, it's slowing down into that position effectively. Like in this case, if we translate Z, it's slowing down here. Maybe I shouldn't slow down so much. Maybe I should do that. But the point is, if it's sharp, right? If it's sharp, it's not a slow down. It will still continue. But a sharp, what you call it? This one, right? A sharp turn like this means it's a bounce. Basically, it's like, doom, doom, like that. These others are more like, like the bounce like, If the bounces here were more sharp, it'd be like, actually, which might be better, come to think of it. I'll have to test that, but right now the bounces here are more like, rather than, so, you think of it like that. It's think of the graph like if it's curvy, it's going to be, the motion will be like, like the motion will be wavy also. If it's sharp, the motion will be sharp, like pow, pow, Sort of like, it's very hard to explain this, like in terms of what you see in the graph and what you feel. It kind of comes with experimentation also. So definitely do play around with the graph. Don't be afraid to mess about with it. Don't forget, we did have it saved previously. We didn't save it now. If you want to save it now, I would save it as that, change it to that, change it to 1. Or you could always save it instantly as something else. So you always have that default one to always fall back on if anything goes horribly wrong. You're like, I don't know how to fix this. Let me go back to my original. But at least know that you should definitely play around with the graph editor. You can understand a lot about how things are animated. In this regards, let's see what happens if we, as I said, actually there's a shortcut for this. You don't need to do that. If you want it spiked, right, you could have it linear. Yeah, linear tangents. Oh wait, just these. I want these linear, so they become quite sharp, right? So let's see what happens. You won't see much difference because one, the keyframes are literally just one keyframe, one keyframe, one keyframe. There is, I guess, a very subtle feel. It's very hard to feel it when you're playing in this using this these buttons, because it requires Maya to actually calculate on the fly, and if your computer's not powerful enough, as you can see here, it kind of feels off a little bit. It's not your. This is just a short preview of your animation. It's not going to be your real animation. Your real animation will be slightly different. A little faster perhaps, but you think about it, if your animation frames are very close to each other, whether or not they're flat or they're sharp, right, will have very little difference. So in this case, it doesn't matter if you're making these end bits flat or sharp. It matters very little in the long run, since these last keyframes are literally next to each other. With this one though, I'm just going to quickly edit that. Yeah, So let's see one more time. Yeah, you know what? That looks okay. That looks okay for now. Like this is so. Let's say that we are happy. We're not happy, but let's say we're happy. Let's say we're happy with that one. Let's go ahead and get our other one in, wherever it is. There it is. Let's go hide that one. So let's hide that one. We got this one. So this one sort of floats in from the top. Now I'm not sure why there's two keyframes. Oh dear, there's two keyframes. I'm not sure why. Now before I delete that keyframe, which you can by the way, let's see what is that. It's visibility, I suppose. That doesn't matter. Okay, so you notice I was about to do something, right? I selected this one, and what did I do? I sort of right click and there. Sorry? Yeah, okay. Basically, I was going to delete this keyframe. I don't want it. Basically, I want, it was originating at 60. There's this random keyframe that appeared. For the life of me, I'm not sure how it appeared, but for some reason, looking at the graph editor, a keyframe in the visibility has appeared around that frame. I don't know how. So I say I don't want that. So what I do, again, shift select to get that red thing pop up. That means I'm selecting that keyframe. Or if you want, you know, like remember what I did select a buffer. It doesn't matter in this case, you know, like you select one, you select a buffer. It's all right, because unless you're selecting that keyframe, then no, you don't want that. You just want this keyframe selected, because you are going to right click this. You're going to right click this region here, this red region. You right click, you can delete. And that's gone. You go back to your graph editor. It's not there. It's not there anymore. So same thing for this cone. I suppose we can say it stops at frame 50 and starts falling at frame 40. All right. Let's see how that works. That's a little too disjointed. Let's say it starts falling around 35. So let's select the whole thing and move carefully to 35. All right. So it's about here and it starts moving. Right, now we edit the graph for that cone, wherever it is, that cone. Again, go to translate Z, and we change the various parameters here. Say we stretch this out a little bit, stretch this out this way. So we get this feeling. Okay, and then here, I guess we could do the same thing as we did here. Oh God, can I, let me see if it works. I rarely do this because it doesn't really work. Let me see if I can just copy and paste it here. Paste, connect. It did work. So yeah, okay, I wouldn't recommend it most of the time, but you can play around with the copy and paste sort of thing. You can, if it's simple animation, like I literally just moving only in one direction, right? And same thing for this one. It's literally the same motion. I'm just moving in one direction. If you copy and paste those keyframes, you have to remember what it's doing. Like when I copy the keyframes here, what it's doing is copying these keyframes, right? In the translate Z. When I paste it onto this object, it's pasting those keyframes at this, starting from frame 46 where I started, where I selected, right? I selected this keyframe. I selected this. Basically selected this region. Right click, paste. You know, paste connect is something else. Any case, here because it's the same movement in the same property, i.e. translate Z, it's okay to copy and paste. You know, it's a shortcut. I don't deny it. I, however, wouldn't recommend using that unless you're rushing like I am. Like really, it's a very cheap way to introduce very quickly similar animation, so that you don't have to continuously, do that little bits, that, yeah, it's just a very fast way to go ahead and edit stuff very quickly. Again, as I said, not something I recommend most of the time. However, if you're rushing and you know what you're doing, you play around enough, so you know what you're doing, your animation is simple enough, you can use it. But it is not a one-button solution. So please keep that in mind. This pasting is not a magical solution, even though it feels like it sometimes. So yeah. So that caveat out of the way, I'm just going to quickly change bits here and there so it looks much more interesting. And this one, I shall make it rotate like crazy, maybe -720. I don't know why. Let's see, rotate Y. That's big. That's flat. Let's make this that way. Let's make this really stretch out this way. And let's stretch this one out this way. Right, let's see what happens. That goes up. Nah, you don't see much. It goes up that way. Let's try change this one. Let's have this go positive. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Right. Now, just so that everything works together, we can just move it that way. Okay, let's move it this way a little bit more. Okay. So I'm just changing the time for the pyramid so it falls more or less simultaneously, as you felt there. Sort of thing like that. Okay, let me just check its Y. I want, not Y, translate Z. I want this perhaps a little faster, so I shall break it, make it go a bit faster that way. Yep. And then I'll just go through the different edits here. Okay, right, so let's try one more time. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so we got our little animations there. Now our final one, we want all these to zoom from the camera into the picture, right? So usually what helps is at this point you go out here and you say, okay, so that's where it is. Right, so that goes there around frame 45. Let's say that these are the final positions at frame 60, 70, or 65. We'll go for frame 65. Remember, now that you know how to move the keyframes, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter exactly where you place them. You can always edit the keyframes to give you a different feel to your animation. So that's very powerful. Let's put it that way. It doesn't restrict you to a formal or a calculative method of you need this amount of keyframes for so and so. You can say this doesn't feel right. Let me change the keyframe so it's a bit faster or slower. It gives you more flexibility when animating. Okay, now that aside, let's see, that goes there. Okay, let's move all these things behind the camera so that when you animate it, you get let's very quickly add in the animations that we can actually see a little bit. I'm just going to jump straight ahead and edit the curve also. Might as well. I wanted to sort of thing. So like a little bit more there and a little bit more there. Okay, let's try it. So let's see. Let's go from here. Something like that. So now, okay, that's somewhat exciting. Yeah, okay. So we got the crafting appearing. So what do we do now? Let's consider staggering them a bit. What does staggering the timing more like? It's like, so we get this one coming in earlier. We get this one coming in a bit later. We get this one coming a little bit earlier, and this one definitely, this one probably much later. Okay, so yeah, so we got our very simple animation. Look at this. So we start there, zoom, very simple, right? So you got some simple ideas of how to maybe create motion, right? So these are very simple, but quite the camera, the items coming from the camera into the picture is quite a powerful one because it grabs people's attention. Staggering the timing can give a very nice effect, like sort of thing. And finally, okay, let's see when the animation ends. You want to give it a small buffer, maybe 10 frames before you end it. So we say end it at 80. Okay, so let's just test it a little bit. Yeah, okay. So once you're happy at this point, comes the rendering. But I will leave rendering for a different lesson. Yeah, you can always learn to render later. Right now, don't worry about how the final animation looks like. Don't worry about how the final video looks like. Worry more about how the animation feels. Now, I will take a short break now. I'll take a short break from the teaching, but I want you during the break, maybe let's extend the break a little bit so that you have your normal break plus a little bit of time for you to plan out your animation. After the break, I will add in more stuff to the animation. In fact, maybe I'll create a second animation, more to do with bending, more to do with bouncing, perhaps, more stretching, squashing. Right now it's more of a simple look. I mean, you look. I did very little deformations. It's more just movement, really. So this is animation using movement. You know how to using the time slider here. You now know how to edit the timing of animation so that you have more powerful control over your times and over your animation. However, after the break, I will teach you more on the deformations and how you may be able to use them how you may be able to manipulate them. Also, maybe some other tips and tricks if I can remember. So, but for now, during this break and during this slightly elongated break, besides having the normal break, I want you guys to look at your logo, look at the different parts it has, and think about, how do I want this animated? Do I want this maybe circling in, or do I want this or something, whatever? It's your sort of choice. I will come around and also ask you, hey, also what have you thought of? Then maybe you can discuss, maybe add in a little bit of bounce here, or maybe a little bit twist here. So yeah, use the time for that. I'll go ahead and start the break now. Okay, cool. All right, just before we properly stop, should your logo not be in this position, right? Say, let's yeah, like, ooh. Okay, let's have very quickly, let's say this is your logo, okay? Very simple. Let's focus on this boys here. All right, let's very quickly shift the thing down there. Okay, and pop it directly on there. Okay, cool. Okay, say this is your thing, right? If your logo is not facing downwards that way, but facing say that way, right? How you guys built, it's the same. It's basically when you create your camera, or I would suggest creating a camera, to be honest. You can always use the default camera, but it's just nicer to have a camera where you have full control over what you can see. Any case, let's zoom into this camera. Let's maybe make it a bit bigger so you can see it. Right. So that's it. You don't need to worry about rotating it. You just have this camera. Now, if you look through the plane of the camera 1, as it's called, I didn't change it. Camera 1, that's what it looks like. So here you can change, translate Y. Maybe if you click this middle mouse button, drag up or down, you get to see this. Say, oh, okay. Oh, you get to see what's behind, huh? And again, what that's doing, if you look at the perspective, right? I'm just changing this. I'm not touching the rotate here, but you can if you want to. If you have a different idea, if you have like, oh, I want this to look up and look down, say in this manner, you can. You look at the camera one, you look down and take rotate. Oh, it's okay. You can't do it that way. This was quite hard because if you start doing this, right, there's no control. You will get so many weird functions. So control of a camera is very important to try to get hold of. You want this facing here, so it's roughly like this. It's a bit of guesswork at times, so with translates all right. Yeah, something like that. You want an overhead shot that way. So this is what it will look like. So yeah, don't worry so much if your logo is not like how this is built here. It doesn't matter. What matters is the position of your camera. That's ultimately important, and how you use it to portray. Here you can have the ball bounce from above, like still above here, or you can come in from behind the camera, from below the camera if you want, zoom like that, up there. You could have it spiral in from the top, sort of thing, you know. So yeah, that's I hope that answers your question. Like you don't have to worry so much if your logo is not flat on the ground like that. Because we're using a perspective camera anyway, orthogonal positions don't matter so much. Okay, so yeah, I guess that. Hope that answers your question. Cool. Right. So, right. Okay. So for what you plan, that's not bad actually. It's quite a decent idea. There are several things like for your teeth. I know you want to go zig, 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 right? That sort of thing. So let's. Okay. Thanks. Thank you for playing fair. Oh, well. Okay. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Let's link that. Right. So you know, most likely you're going to go zoom like that, right? Sort of thing. But that said, right, you want to definitely move your thing down to this, or if you don't want that, if you don't want to just move the entire, you don't want to move it to that part, which is probably advisable. You probably want to hold down D, remember, to move the pivot. Hold down that. Click on the y-axis, middle mouse button, V that, so you're on the middle at the very bottom. So let's that just snapping bit. Remember your snapping. That's your basics. So when you scale from the Y, you go from 0, and then you go from these two also 0. Then so when it starts animating, you say start animating that. Oh, start animating that. And then this will grow up to at 10. This will grow to 1, 1, and 10. There you go. So the idea is that you have this grow up thumb. Okay. Where is the scales? F. Boom. Okay. So the idea is that you have these two group like that, something like that, right? So something like that. You play around some more. So the point I wanted to make is that maybe here you want it at 1 actually, 1, so that it's nicer that way. So like that. You know what I mean? Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you don't position this thing right carefully, your scale will be so different, you know. If it's in the middle, you have a headache, you know, like, oh, how the hell do this? So you definitely want to make sure your pivot point is in the correct position when you animate this. So that's a piece of a heads up in what you want to do. Second thing is, again with the eyes, right? Say we have a torus. This is not what your one is, obviously, but do bear with me for a bit. Come on. Okay, let's rotate this 90 degrees this way. Okay, and say it's like this, right? and say we have that located there, right? I mean, this is just really rough and, you know, rough and ready. So the point is, how will you do this? Ooh, this is tricky. Because imagine, I think what you want to do, one thing you can do is blink. Oh, imagine you blink, right? So the idea is that this bit will blink like this, right? So one thing I guess you could do is you have this centered. Make sure this is like the top bit. I suppose what you need to do is you have that in the same, like this would be nice and round, right? So you have it at a certain point there. You have the vertex at the bottom at a certain point. Then you have this modify this to the center pivot, and then what you do, you can, I guess you do this. You can either group the two together so that it's a group, and this group you can say I, and then you, in this case, you select the group there and press center pivot, and then you go something like that. Okay, or sorry. Or what you could do is you could have this parent to this one. So take this, take that. Remember, child first, then parent. Press P. You take that, and now there you go. So that's some ideas. Maybe you got, hey, you know what? You could do blinking. You have this thing first. You have this thing first. You know, like if you, the thing is, right, you have it parented. You can still animate this. This can still be like let's see. Yeah. See that is, those animations are horrible, right? Remember, you don't edit. Make sure you have everything planned first, then you animate, right? So let's delete that. We don't want that. We don't want this, and we don't want this. All right. So we just have this, right? Okay. So let's have that there. So this will start at 0, 0. So when the circle forms, right, you know, you won't see it at all. But then this happens. So okay, you won't see it because there's nothing to see. Let's go to scale, F, that, and now like this. So like we get this, right, right. So that thing comes up there. One, I guess you could have it fly from in, whatever. It's just depending on what you want. I guess it'd be easier if it's not parented. Rather than parented, you group it. Again, right, this is more like you have to test which is better, parenting or grouping. You know, sorry?
My eyes are actually in one piece and it's not separate.
Okay, in that case, if it's still one piece, right, then you can have the eye appear, then have it blink. You know, because if they're one piece, right, you know, if they're one piece, then technically they go like that together. So, you know, imagine that one blink, blink, blink. But just some little ideas. You can do whatever you want, honestly. You can have it blink like an alien, like this. Blink, blink. But in any case, just some ideas. So yeah, just some little tips on maybe what you can do when you're animating, right? You know, like think about stuff like that, you know. Okay, let me pause this first and go. You can do smashing and stuff. Let's see if I can sort of pull it off using this thing. Right, you need one of these and you need one of these. All right. You definitely need these two. Maybe make this bigger. Okay. So in Maya, you can say, usually what you want is you definitely want like a relatively high amount of poly, because when it smashes, it does smash into those bits, right? So let's go into dynamics. This bottom bit we call as a passive rigid body. Means it's not moving, it's just there as a floor, effectively. That's what we want. So we call it passive rigid body. This part, don't worry about learning it. I'm just showing you. If you want it, it's in the video. And if you want further, I was planning on like a extra class this Saturday, if you guys are free, sort of thing. I don't know if I'll put it in the group, see who's free. I forgot to put it in the group last week. Bloody hell. But in any case, I'll put it in the group this week. If no one's free this week, then it'll be next week. Let's put it that way. Any case, then we create active rigid body. See what happens. Okay, that's nothing. Oh wait, maybe there's no gravity, that's why. And let's put this to 240. Okay. 10 seconds. Let's put this, what was it? Solvers. Gravity, active rigid, active particle collision, initial settings, initial spin, initial position, initial velocity. Let's have initial velocity at -1. Apply, close, play. Does it work? Does it work? I just realized that I just realized that this one needs to be probably a bit closer. Let's make it 5. Or let's not make it 5. Let's make it here. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it. No. Oh my God, it works. Look at that. But it's bouncing. It doesn't break. Notice that. Notice that it sort of bounced exactly. That's not what I want. Okay, that's not what I want. Which means I have to change this. I have to make this into what was it? Break rigid connection, create soft body. No. What was it? I want this to be destroyed. So rigid solver. How do I do this? So much easier in so much easier in Cinema 4D. I know I keep saying that, but it is true. This one is like, what's happening? Like, can I not particle conversion performance attribute? See, let's have that 0. Stand in, no collision data. I don't know sentence. Okay, close. That's not what I want. Create smoke, create fire, fuse, fluid, particle emitter. No. Soft ridge. It has to be here, but what's this? Red spring. How do I smash it? That's the thing. How do I smash this? I just want this to hit this and break. Why is it so difficult? Because if I do this and it that's not what I want. Any case, I think that's the reason is because the initial setting still is at -1. So put it 0, create, close, and play. No. Okay, you know what? I will get back to you on the learning Maya dynamics properly. For now, just take it that you can do it. It's just that you need to play around with this thing some more. Any case, back to what we can do. Right, so let's see. Let's just take the examples again. Let's open the scene logo test 0. Don't save. And let's save this as scene number 2. So we're going to try something different here. Right? Okay, so let's have these all let's have all these sort of like delete by type history again, just because I believe they aren't. G, and then modify freeze transformations, freeze, and then this one lastly is to center pivot, center pivot. Okay, cool. So these are all again in that default state. Now let's see. Let's try to add in a deformer, bend, flare. You can add a twist deformer to this cone, for example. Don't know how it looked like, but yeah. So here you can have a twist here. Let's see, let's scale this. Oh wait, no, it's not. Okay, let's have a twist. So that, I guess, is your twist. This purple thing. So let's rotate it so that it matches the cone. Now let's see the twist again. Let's start angle that way and angle. You won't notice any difference apparently because it's a circle. How opportune. Now maybe we rotate it differently. Here you go. You get some interesting rotations. Something like that. Yeah, that's not exactly what I want. Let's try to rotate it differently. Okay, let's maybe make this 90. Then maybe rotate this way. Oh, it doesn't do anything. Of course it doesn't. Oh, what the hell? Oh. Oh, that's actually quite cool. Actually, look at that. So what we could do, right? We could animate this using this, then have it at 180 degrees. So let's see what happens. Oh, of course, the reason why nothing happens because remember we still in the blocking state, right? So it's all right for this end angle. No, start angle. No, low bound, high bound. Twist data. Which is the? Where is my? Oh no, it's this one. I was rotating this. There we go. Okay. No, this one can seem a little redundant, but it just helps to help it block basically. So yeah, there you go. Sort of thing. I don't know. So that's something you can do with twist. That's twist. You can animate a twist. What else can you do? Let's delete the twist handle. You can, for this one, we could add in a non-linear. I don't know what flare does, to be honest. Let's see what happens when we flare it up. Let's see. Start flare. Whoa! Oh, look at that teardrop shape. You know, it's the Google thing. Yeah. Oh, so that's the flare. Flare being the X and the Z. The Z on top is there. No, that's not the. Oh wait. I don't know what that does. N flare. Oh, that's the N. Right. Okay. So there you go. And the Z is there. Ooh. So there you go. You can create your. You can create. Yeah. And then you got the curve. Oh, what the? Oh, here's how you create an arrow apparently. And then you have your start flare. Is it? No, not this one. You have your end. No, that's not it. You have your this two, I believe. Yeah, no. Okay, but the point is, right, flare seems to be about boom, stretching it out that way. Not, well, you can use it, but or you can also use this, But flare seems to give a lot more interesting shapes, so you might want to use that if you think, hey, you know what, maybe I would like to try experimenting with flare. You can try sine. Sine is a wavy function, so that's definitely going to change it in that. Whoa, yeah, look at that. Okay, let me maybe reduce it, but you can get this. You can get this zigzag function quite well. Get wavelength of this. Oh yeah, that's lightning bolt. So that's flash. No, and again, so that's sine. Is creating that function. You can get squash here. I guess it'd be envelope. No, not envelope. Factor. Yeah, you can squash. Ooh. Then you get squashing dependent on this thing. So let's say we rotate it 90. We can squash it this way. It'd be just the Y. It'd be the Y thing. So, but like notice how this squash is like whoa, quite controlled in a sense. You could use this squash deformer if you like, rather than the scale Y for the thing, because this gives you this kind of automatically, notice that it automatically adjusts the scale X and Z. So when you're squashing, right, it's not just the up and down, it's literally adding that extension also. So this gives a shortcut to playing around with the scale X, Y, Z. You could use the deformer to add in the bounce here. So like the factor, like remember the oh gods, oh yeah, there we are. Remember the earlier animation of the thing doing that, right? You can add in a bit of squash, that sort of thing. So there's that little function you can have. Apart from squash, you got the nonlinear of twist you saw, and you got wave. Now wave, if I'm not mistaken, is similar to sine, except it's rising this to be worshipped. No, I was kidding. I don't know. It'd probably be easier to see with maybe using this. We can't change it. Oh well. Let's oh boy. Let's use this. All right. It's probably easier to use this and then put in subdivisions of this. Now let's put in a wave function. Right, let's put that and put amplitude. Ooh, look at that! And then you could have offset. So you could. So what you could do is like you could technically have something drop inside, and you go amplitude, drop that, and then you just animate the offset. So. And then you reduce the amplitude as you go along. So you just reduce, while having the offset go on and slow down like that. So that's the one where you can emulate. It's not simulate, you can emulate pebble dropping. That'd be quite cool to do actually. This is quite cool to do. That's it, what else? You can do amplitude, you can increase wavelength. Whoa. So like, you discussed. And then you do drop off, and you do the offset. Doesn't do anything for that. Okay, yeah, I'm guessing you don't like that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, so that's what happens when you increase wavelength. That's what happens when you decrease wavelength. Drop off. You kind of adjust the bits there. Drop off position doesn't do anything. Min radius, max radius. So max radius, like depending on the circle, notice the circle there. So yeah, those are the different deformers I would recommend you use. The others, don't worry so much. Blend shapes is definitely not in your syllabus, so don't worry about that. Lattice wrap, not cluster. These you don't need. This here down here, nonlinear, all you need, all the deformers you need to even animate and to have things going. Now, remember that when you create deformers, you have to parent them to your object, all right? So that when your object is moving, your deformers move along with it. So, what else can I tell you? Yeah, I mean, really, the limitations to animation comes from your imagination. Do what you want, basically, and don't let if you want to do something and and you can't find a way to do it using the tools I taught you, drop me a question and I'll see if I can't answer it. So like I mean, that's really it. Animation is really chained by our own imagination, so really depends on that. So I guess I'll leave the last half hour. It's 4:30 now. Leave the last half hour to any questions you like to ask. If you don't have any questions, then we can end early. I don't mind. Don't say that. Don't tell anyone. This video will be like checked out anyway, so they'll find out. But I really taught you everything in this. Let me just double check. Taught you all this anyway. Setting keyframe per channel. That's not difficult. You click that, you right click, you go to a particular channel, say you just want this, you just want that, you just say key selected, then you get that, and only that. This is different from pressing S, because notice that when you check the graph editor, you only have that, because you only selected that that part of the channel function and right click, key selected. You key all, you get all these lovely colors. But yeah, that's it. That's nothing major. Yeah, copy and pasting keyframe showed you, deleting keyframe showed you. Yeah, technically you got today's lessons pat down. So, is there any questions you'd like to ask besides the dynamics? Because I will get to that.
Is it okay if we don't animate the background? It's just like
That's fine. That's fine. You can have the background static. Like this sort of like you had this plain background. Like what I did for, I don't know actually. Do you guys probably haven't got my what you call it? You guys probably haven't got my the update, not the update, the assignment 2's brief, right? So you guys probably haven't seen it yet, but that said, I'll show you very quickly the video. This is the final video in its entirety. If you remember this, I just added the music. So yeah, the background is not animated. Yeah, and for that particular shot, if you like to note, if you notice, right? Wow, thanks. Yeah, so if you notice the back shot, right? It's smooth, right? I've used the studio lighting. Remember, I used a bend deformer on a plane. So the bend deformer was like this, and the objects were close to the end here. So you don't see the harsh change up, the harsh change in gradient. You see a more smooth sort of thing. If that's what you want to ask, how do I get this sort of like continuous feel? So yeah, just one more time, just pop. This is very simple. That's very, very simple. And technically, right, this one required me to create not just the logo, but to create other stuff. You can do this if you want. Like you can go like, oh, I want to do stuff like this or this, whatever you want, as long as you can finish it. So yeah, I think any other questions? Okay, let's not do that. Sorry, any other questions? No? Finish? Okay, so right. Let me just stop this.